My name is Zeke Fuhrman, and I live in Detroit Lakes. And I think a huge part of my testimony is God's faithfulness and the way that he shows himself in weird ways. When I was in high school, I didn't talk very much. I was a super shy kid. My senior quote in the yearbook was just smile and nod, because that's most of what I said in high school. Like, if you were to tell me back in 2004, 2005, that I would be on the radio as a career, I would have told you to get out of town. There's no way I'm going to talk for a living, and just seeing all the things that have lined up exactly so for me to get to where I was as this shy 70 pounds lighter high school senior to where I am now is just, it can't be anything less than God. So I tried to make my own path a number of times. When I graduated high school, I wanted to be a music teacher for a while, to do something with music. I wanted to do something potentially in the medical field. I worked in the dietary department at Lakewood Health System, and then I got my CNA license and then did the CNA thing for a while, and I liked that. And so I contemplated nursing, moved out of the Twin Cities and worked at a couple of nursing homes and assisted living and home health facilities down there. But for some reason, the doors kept closing on that. I got laid off twice working in the Roseville, St. Anthony area right after my wife and I got married in 2008. I took a couple independent jobs as a home health aide. And while those paid the bills at the time, the doors just seemed to keep closing there as well. And so I, at that point, was just kind of wondering, okay, if I'm not supposed to do this medical thing, I mean, what am I going to do? I mean, possibilities are endless. And I bounced around to a bunch of different jobs. Between that, at one point, I worked in a tuxedo shop at the Rosedale Mall, and I have absolutely no sewing skills whatsoever. And for me to be hemming pants and measuring inseams, it showed me that there were some things out there that I was not specifically supposed to do. As I was driving around the Twin Cities one day, I listened to sports talk radio a lot, and just happened to be listening to a radio program down there called The Common Man, Dan Cole, on KFAN. And he always has these bits with interns. And one day, I still don't know if this is a bit or not, he had an intern on his radio show that could not name the four Beatles. They knew Ringo and they knew Paul, because those were the two that were still alive. Didn't know John, didn't know George. And I just got this feeling in my stomach. And this is going to sound kind of self-centered in a way, but I was like, this cannot be the future of radio. I mean, we have people that are going to be on the radio that can't name the four Beatles. I mean, I can name the four Beatles. I should be on the radio playing music. And so that night, I applied to a number of different radio programs in the Twin Cities area. One of them was the University of Northwestern St. Paul. A little bit of history between me and the University of Northwestern St. Paul. My early college years, I absolutely despised the University of Northwestern St. Paul. When I first moved to the cities, I was dating my wife. I went to a community college in Anoka, and my wife went to Northwestern, about 20 minutes away. And I just got this bad feeling when I was there. The food made me sick. Sorry, the cat is bumping my recorder here. The food made me sick. The air conditioning was too cold. The people were fake and this and this and that. And when I was looking at radio programs, I was like, all right, I can go. We lived in Anoka at the time. I can commute north to St. Cloud. I can commute way south to Brown College, or I can give Northwestern College a shot. And so I applied to Northwestern. They called me the next day. This was like the beginning of August 2010. And so like less than 10 days before classes started is when I was trying to sneak into this radio program. My kids are being loud now. And so I got in. The tuition stuff was super fast. And before I had even heard from Brown, before I had even heard from St. Cloud State, I was admitted to Northwestern. And this school that I had such animosity towards, even 6 weeks before applying there. And I went there and I got my degree. It's still right here from Northwestern College, something I never would have believed, getting a radio degree, and B, getting a radio degree from a school that I just absolutely could not stand at all. And those were two major parts of now looking back, just to see how God was forming me and changing me and softening my heart for things like this. Fast forward a couple years later, actually, I got my degree. I'm looking for a job. I went back to college probably when I was 22, 23, 24 years old, somewhere in there. Didn't have a lot of time for an internship. I raced through my 4-year program in 2 years. Didn't get an internship. I applied for a couple of them. I was a top 5 candidate for a job with the Minnesota Twins. I was offered a position with the St. Paul Saints to run the board for their radio broadcasts, but it was about 60 hours a week and it was unpaid. That just doesn't fly as a fresh college graduate who's married with a kid on the way at that point. And so I just started applying for jobs and trying just to find one thing that would stick. I think I applied to 72 different stations across the Midwest. Interviewed a number of times, but there was always somebody with experience. There was always somebody that had a really good internship. And so I kept getting passed by. And so now I'm thinking, all right, so I just burned through these 2 years to get this degree. And maybe now I'm not even going to be able to use it because no one's even giving me a look. I applied for an on-air job probably 3 times in Winona, Minnesota, and didn't get the job the first 2 times. Didn't get the job the third time. But when I was there interviewing the third time, they said, you know what? We've got this opening in our sales department. Do you want to move down to Winona and sell radio advertising and kind of get your foot in the door that way? There's a lot more money in the sales side of advertising, of radio. And so I thought, you know what? It's my foot in the door. I'll give it a shot with the intention of making my way on the sales side to the on-air side. So I moved to Winona, worked in Winona for about 8 months before applying for a sales job in Detroit Lakes. Got that job, and we moved to Detroit Lakes in December of 2013, I believe, right near the end of 2013. And so sold radio in Detroit Lakes for probably another 8 months with always the gut feeling that I was made to do something more than just sell radio advertising, to have a bigger impact on the area, on listeners, and just felt like I could be doing something more with my training and just this gut feeling that I had. And so I talked to our boss and I said, you know what, I'm just not feeling this sales thing. I know you brought me in to sell radio advertising. How would you feel if I dropped from full-time insurance, benefits, ESOP, everything down to a part-time role with the radio station, just board opping stuff in the afternoon, and then I'll make ends meet other ways. And they were hesitant to do so, but they agreed that based on my terrible sales numbers, it probably was the best thing to do at that point. And so I went from just the security and all that, just giant leap of faith, knowing, okay, I've got my foot in the door. I'm working, early mornings on Saturdays and Sundays, and I'm working late nights every other night of the week, in addition to another job that I'd taken in the area. If it doesn't work out this time, maybe I heard God wrong, and maybe everything I've worked for the last 3, 4, 5 years just isn't meant to be. And when I took that leap of faith, and moved from salary to hourly and losing all my benefits and stuff, I started to see the pieces line up. At that point, I started filling in more on the midday show on KDLM. I started doing some more commercial stuff. I started doing more stuff that was able to show what I was capable of. Because at this point, I'm still, I'm a failed sales guy who's trying to make it now on the on-air side, is how I'm sure it looked on the outside looking in. And just seeing how different things opened up and seeing how different pieces started moving just based on people leaving the company for better opportunities and just things like that. I very quickly feel like I rose up the ladder, for a guy who couldn't get hired, in small town Minnesota, a place that just wants a cheap guy to fill a seat on their morning show. Couldn't get a look there. And now the opportunities that have presented themselves in the how long has it been? Probably 4 years since I came back on full time with Leighton Broadcasting. Eventually, now working into the morning carpool on Wave 104.1 with my wife, and just seeing how that aligned itself too, to be able to do a morning show with my wife. I mean, I can guarantee there are very few morning shows that have the same chemistry that a husband and wife who have been married for nearly 15 years would have. And to be able to do something that I love, to be able to do something that I love, that it also is able to impact people's mornings, days, lives positively in a world where media gets such a bad rap for being so divisive and so negative. Just to have some fun talking about, things that married couples deal with all the time, whether it's me not doing the dishes or not making the bed, or things that wives struggle with husbands with. And on the flip side, things that my wife does that drive me crazy, that I feel drive a lot of people crazy. The world just needs more lighthearted media in a world where the media gets blamed for a lot of things, and kind of re-spinning that in these times, I think, is a reason that I have been placed in this role. I'm just now working through my thoughts, realizing this, because I had this whole thing of starting from nothing, started from the bottom, and now we're here, to quote Drake in a testimony. That's kind of awkward. But seeing where we are now, and the feedback that we get, and just the positive outlook that we are able to have in times of political unrest, of end time stuff making headlines every day, pandemic stuff that's been, we've been on this 2-week pause for almost 11 months and counting now, and things are slowly starting to dial back. But there is so much negativity in the world, I feel. And I think it takes a very unique person to be able to spin that positively. And there are a lot of media places that don't do that. And a lot of people are consumed by those media places, the divisive places, the places that, if someone doesn't think the same as you, forget about them. And that is not what Jesus teaches at all. Love your neighbor as yourself, whether they're Republican, whether they're Democrat, whether they're this or that. And that's kind of the approach that we have taken to this morning show. So with that experience and that opportunity in Detroit Lakes, we've also really found a really good community of friends here in Detroit Lakes, with friends for not just our kids, the same age as our kids, but also people that my wife and I can both lean on as well. Because one thing that we've learned as a couple over the last 15-ish years is we can rely on each other for a lot of stuff, but we can't rely on each other, for everything. There's some things that I need to work out with my guy friends, and there's some things that she needs to go and work through with her girlfriends. And the communities that have been placed in our lives in some of the most God-given ways is incredible. And the friends that we've made and the relationships that we've made, not just here at Detroit Lakes, but also my relationships going back to college. Guys that are in similar positions as me, that started from the bottom, and now there's Northwestern grads that are running radio stations that are doing big things. We bounce ideas back and forth, and how should we do this and how should we do that, and what is the best community-minded way that we should be doing this or that we should be doing that. And it all stems back to a firm Christian base. If you don't have that strong base, it's going to crumble. There's the parable about the two men. One built his house on the rocks. One built his house on the sand. The waves came crashing in. The house on the rocks stood firm, and the house on the sand went flat. And for me, a huge part of where I am today, not just professionally, but also personally and spiritually, comes from the foundation that I have in Christ. That started with my parents, and that continued through high school, and that continued to develop itself in ways I didn't think possible through my college, in my early adult years, my early marriage years, continuing to build as I became a father, not once, but twice, and then putting that same faith, that same foundation into my kids, and seeing them grow along with me and my wife has been very special to see. So just looking back, I know this is kind of just a bunch of random thoughts, it seems like, but looking back, because when this was all happening, it was just frustrating. When you get laid off from a career you think you're supposed to be doing twice in the span of 7 weeks, you start to think, okay, is it me? You check your breath and be like, does my breath stink? Is it something wrong with me? And I think it was. And I think the thing that was wrong with me is I was trying to force myself into a position that God did not think I would be the most impactful, the most beneficial to not just me, but also to other people as well. And I think that's why the position that we are in with Wave 104.1 in the morning carpool, and talking politics and talking pop culture, which can also get pretty smutty and pretty racy, and taking a positive, to quote the 1990s, what would Jesus do approach to it. And I think that's something that you don't see a lot of hot AC stations have on their morning show. It's always dishing and gossip, and that stuff isn't good either. And so it's trying to find the balance of informing and entertainment, but also doing a top 40 radio morning show with a Christ-based, without being too preachy, I guess you could say as well. So I guess to close, it's important to reflect and just to remember that God is faithful, even when times are tough, even when it doesn't seem like he's there. He says, I'll never leave you or forsake you. And I've personally experienced that in my life many, many times.